Picture this. It's 892 after Christ, and the world is about to witness something that will fundamentally change how we think about warfare. But it starts, as these stories often do, with the complete destruction of everything a 12-year-old boy has ever known. Young Eirik Thorson crouches in what used to be his father's hall, and let me paint you a picture of what he's looking at. 3 days ago, this place buzzed with life. 30 fighting men laughed around fires, their weapons gleaming in the firelight. Ships bobbed in the protected harbour below, heavy with the day's catch from the richest fishing waters in western Norway. Jarl Hakon Thorson, Eirik's father, commanded respect from the Baltic to the Irish Sea. Now Eirik is alone with the dead. The attacking force didn't come for glory or honour, those quaint notions that we romantic types like to imagine drove Viking warfare. No, this was business. Pure, calculated economics. Grimder the Wealthy, and isn't that a telling name, had done his homework. 3 consecutive years of failed harvests had left Hakon unable to pay his warriors their expected wages. When your men start looking elsewhere for silver, you become what military strategists today might call a soft target. Think about what this means for a second. We're talking about a new kind of Viking warfare here. Not the heroic single combat of saga literature, not the honour-bound duels between champions, but systematic economic destruction. Grimmer identified a weakness in Hakon's operation and exploited it with the ruthless efficiency of a modern corporate raider. The parallels are almost uncomfortable, but here's where our story takes a turn that will echo through the fjords for generations. As Eirik performs the burial rites, and imagine this boy, barely past childhood, handling responsibilities that would break grown men, he's not just mourning, he's learning. His hands are black with ash and blood as he mixes sacred mead according to ancient custom, but his mind is working on something else entirely. The oath he speaks that day will literally reshape how fortresses are built and defended. By Thor's hammer and Odin's wisdom, he swears he will create a fortress that no force of men can take. Not through superior numbers, not through economic pressure, not through any conventional means. And here's the thing that gives me chills. This isn't just the angry promise of a grieving child. This is a mission statement that will drive 15 years of obsessive preparation. Now, survival comes first. Eirik joins his uncle Magnus, a merchant sailor who trades the routes between Norway and Constantinople. And this is where our young protagonist begins an education that Harvard Business School couldn't match. He's learning warfare, engineering, economics, and international relations all at once, travelling trade routes that span from the Arctic Circle to the Mediterranean. In Uppsala, he studies under master shipbuilder Bjorn Ironside. And yes, these names matter because reputation was everything in this world. Eirik learns how curved planks resist pressure, how overlapping scales deflect blows. But he's not just absorbing technical knowledge, he's developing a way of thinking that sees connections others miss. The same principles that make a longship flexible enough to ride Atlantic swells might apply to fortress walls under siege pressure. During a trading voyage to Kiev in 895, something happens that will change everything. Prince Oleg's armies are using primitive fire siphons against Pecheneg raiders, and Eirik witnesses something the saga writers never bothered to record: the first glimpse of weaponized flame in northern warfare. Most observers see a curiosity, an exotic foreign technique. Eirik sees potential. For the next dozen years, he becomes what we might call a military anthropologist. Every battle across the North Sea becomes a laboratory. Every fortress wall tells him a story about engineering failures. He notes how raiders systematically exploit wooden palisades' weakness to fire, how even massive stone walls crumble under sustained battering, how defenders always run out of something critical: arrows, oil, food, or simply men. In Hedeby, he meets Astrid the Calculating, and here's a character who deserves her own saga. A former slave who became wealthy by managing fortress supplies, she teaches Eirik a lesson that modern military colleges still struggle to get across to their students. Wars are won by logistics, not courage. The bravest warrior in the world is useless if he can't get fed, equipped, and resupplied. By 907, our protagonist has survived 14 major battles and studied 23 fallen fortresses. 23. Each failure adds to his growing mental collection of defensive innovations. He's like a detective studying crime scenes, except these crime scenes involve burning buildings and scattered body parts. But the real breakthrough comes in Constantinople in 910. Byzantine engineers demonstrate Greek fire during a naval exercise, and while everyone else is impressed by the spectacle, Eirik is taking notes on the copper siphons, the pressurized containers, the specific nozzle designs that create a stream rather than random splatter. This is engineering thinking applied to something most people see as mystical. When Arab pirates attack his uncle's trading vessel near Cyprus, Eirik gets his first hands-on experience with fire weapons. He helps defend the ship using improvised versions of what he's observed, and his performance catches the attention of Kallinikos, an aging Byzantine alchemist who recognizes something special in this fierce Northman. For 2 years, Eirik studies in secret workshops beneath Constantinople's streets. This isn't just about learning Greek fire's formula any spy could steal a recipe. No, he's mastering the underlying principles of pressure, combustion, and mechanical advantage. He's learning to think like an engineer, not just a warrior. And when he finally returns to Norway, he's carrying knowledge that will make him the most dangerous fortress builder in the Viking world. Because Eirik Thorson isn't planning to build just another stronghold. He's planning to build something that will make attacking armies wish they had never heard his name. So Eirik returns to Norway in 917, and he's not the same 12-year-old boy who fled the smoking ruins of his father's hall. He's 37 years old, his hair already grey from breathing alchemical fumes for 2 years, his mind absolutely burning with revolutionary designs. This is a man who has seen the world, studied under masters, and survived more battles than most Jarls fight in a lifetime, and he chooses his fortress location with the precision of a modern engineer. Dragon's Head Rock, a cliff-top promontory, where 3 fjords meet and tidal currents create natural whirlpools. Think about this strategically for a moment. Naval assault becomes impossible from 2 sides because the currents will dash ships against the rocks. It's like having a natural moat that drowns your enemies for you. The local Jarl, Sigurd the Cautious, and doesn't that name tell you everything about his personality, grants Eirik the land in exchange for future tribute. Sigurd figures this foreign-educated warrior will either die attempting his impossible plans or create something worth taxing. It's a win-win from Sigurd's perspective. Either way, he collects, but what happens next is something that shouldn't exist for another 3 centuries. Eirik begins recruiting specialists from across the known world, creating what we might recognize today as an international research and development team. From Finland comes Vaino, the forge singer, a master smith who believes, and I love this detail, that metal must be sung to while it's worked. The metallurgy is advanced, but the methodology is pure ancient craftsmanship. From Ireland, Brother Cormac brings knowledge of watermill engineering learned in Frankish monasteries. This is crucial because Eirik's vision requires massive amounts of mechanical power, and water wheels are the most reliable energy source available in his world. From Saxony arrives Hildegard Iron Eyes, fleeing political persecution, the only metalworker who understands the precise bronze alloys needed for high-pressure pipes. And then there's Nikephoros the Burned, the captured Byzantine alchemist whose face bears scars from a workshop explosion. Initially, he resists sharing his knowledge, which makes perfect sense why help your captors build weapons. But Eirik offers him something unexpected. Not freedom, but partnership. A full share in creating something the world has never seen. This is leadership thinking that most medieval rulers never grasped. The Dragon's Breath system that emerges from this collaboration requires innovations that, frankly, shouldn't be possible with 9th century technology. They develop segmented bronze pipes with leather gasket seals that can withstand 50 pounds of pressure per square inch. To put that in perspective, that's enough force to launch a projectile with lethal velocity. They're essentially creating artillery without gunpowder. The power source is a cascade system of 3 massive bellows, each the size of a longship, driven by an overshot water wheel that captures the full force of a diverted mountain stream. This isn't just engineering, this is hydraulic engineering at a level that wouldn't be seen again until the Renaissance. The amount of planning and precision required to make this work is staggering. But the real innovation is the fuel mixture. Not simple Greek fire, but an enhanced compound that Nikephoros calls dragon's blood. Naphtha from eastern trade routes mixed with powdered amber for adhesion, seal blubber for sustained burning, and crushed sulfur for that terror-inducing smoke. This stuff burns hotter, sticks better, and creates psychological effects that go beyond mere physical damage. Construction takes 3 years of back-breaking labor that kills people. Workers carve channels through solid granite using fire-setting techniques, heating rock with bonfires, then cracking it with cold water. Cave-ins kill 6 men. Pressure tests explode 2 prototype systems, nearly killing Vino. The bronze costs bankrupt Eirik twice, forcing him to raid Scottish monasteries just to fund his obsession. Think about what this means. Eirik is literally robbing monasteries to pay for research and development. He's become so focused on his vision that he's willing to risk his soul in a deeply Christian age to acquire the resources he needs. This is obsession at a level that we might recognize in modern tech entrepreneurs, except the stakes are life and death. But slowly, impossibly, the system takes shape. A network of pipes running through the fortress walls, connecting to 12 dragon-headed outlets positioned at strategic points, all feeding from a central reservoir that can hold 800 gallons of dragon's blood. When you see medieval fortress design, you're usually looking at thick walls, tall towers, maybe a moat. Drakehold is something entirely different. It's a weapon system disguised as a building. The first successful test in 920 literally shakes the mountains. A derelict trading Nar, positioned in the fjord below as a target, disappears in a stream of liquid fire that burns even on water. But it's not just the destruction that's terrifying, it's the sound. Vino has designed bronze resonance chambers into the dragon heads that create an otherworldly shriek when the system fires. The roar echoes across the valleys, carrying for miles. The psychological impact is immediate and profound. Watching Jarls fall silent, some kneel, thinking they're witnessing divine power. Others flee, wanting no part of whatever supernatural forces Eirik has unleashed. Within a month, skalds are singing of Drakehold, the fortress where tame dragons breathe death on command. And King Harold Fairhair hears these songs with growing concern, because in Harold's world, no local Jarl should wield power that inspires this kind of awe and terror. The political implications are enormous. If one regional leader can defy conventional military wisdom with impunity, what happens to the entire feudal system? Harold understands that Eirik has created something that threatens the natural order of power in Scandinavia, and that means Drakehold must be tested. The Great Siege begins on a fog-shrouded morning in late spring, 923. And when I say Great Siege, I mean the largest military force assembled since the Unification Wars. King Harold Fairhair arrives with 50 longships carrying 2,000 warriors, an absolutely massive concentration of power by Viking Age standards. Harold's strategic calculation is brutally simple. Drakehold's location controls 3 major trade routes worth 10,000 silver marks annually. That's not just wealth, that's the kind of revenue that funds armies and builds kingdoms. Eirik's refusal to swear fealty threatens Harold's entire taxation system, because if one Jarl can defy the king with impunity, others will follow. The mathematics of medieval power are unforgiving. The fortress must fall, or the kingdom falls apart. But Harold is walking into an equation he doesn't understand. Traditional siege mathematics say that 50-to-1 odds guarantee victory within days. Drakehold's garrison numbers only 93 defenders, including women and elderly craftsmen. By every conventional measure, this should be a massacre. Except Eirik has fundamentally transformed what defensive warfare means. The approach to Drakehold narrows to a 30-foot killing ground between sheer cliffs, a natural choke point that turns superior numbers into a liability. The dragon heads wait behind bronze shutters, looking like innocent decorations until the moment they're needed. Most crucially, the defenders aren't traditional warriors maintaining battle readiness. They're technicians operating a machine. The first assault comes at dawn on the 3rd day, and it's everything you'd expect from Viking warfare. 800 berserkers, their minds clouded with mushroom potions and battle fury, charge the gates behind a wall of overlapping shields. This is the classic Viking shock tactic that has broken enemy lines from Ireland to Constantinople. Eirik waits. He lets them pack into the killing ground shoulder to shoulder, a mass of humanity focused on breaking down his gates. Then Drakehold breathes. 12 streams of dragon's blood arc through the air, creating a cross-hatched pattern of liquid fire that no man can dodge. The berserker's fury turns to panic as the sticky flames refuse to extinguish, burning through leather, flesh, and bone with equal hunger. Those who flee spread fire to their companions. The fjord below fills with burning bodies still screaming as they sink beneath the surface. The psychological impact is devastating. These are men who have faced death in battle dozens of times, who pride themselves on courage in the face of overwhelming odds. But this isn't battle, it's execution by supernatural forces they cannot comprehend or combat. Harold adapts, because he's a competent military commander. He attempts a night assault with scaling ladders, believing darkness will hide his men from the dragon heads. But Eirik has prepared for this scenario too. Elevated dragon heads angle downward, creating cascading waterfalls of fire that turn the entire cliff face into a vertical inferno. The illumination reveals everything, letting Drakehold's archers pick off any survivors with ease. Danish mercenary Thorkel, the climber, a man famous throughout Scandinavia for scaling impossible walls, manages to reach one of the dragon heads before the flames engulf him. His death screams echo for hours, trapped and amplified by Vino's bronze resonance chambers. It's psychological warfare at a level that won't be seen again until modern artillery barrages. Yet the siege's true drama unfolds inside Drakehold's walls, because defending with supernatural weapons creates moral dilemmas that conventional warfare doesn't face. Eirik's eldest son Ragnar questions the honor of burning helpless men. Finnish shamans perform cleansing rituals after each attack, believing the dragon spirits require appeasement to prevent them from turning on their masters. Nikephoros drinks himself unconscious every night, haunted by creating something worse than Greek fire. When the water wheel mechanism jams during the 4th week and mechanical failures are the eternal enemy of complex systems, Eirik's middle son Bjorn volunteers to clear it during an active assault. He succeeds but takes 3 arrows in the process, dying in his father's arms while Harold's forces burn in the killing ground below. This tragedy transforms Drakehold's defenders in a fundamental way. They're no longer operating a weapon, they're feeding a god that demands sacrifice from both sides. The psychological toll of wielding this kind of power is something that siege manuals never address, because siege manuals assume human-scale warfare. After 43 days, economic reality accomplishes what violence cannot. Harold's Jarls start doing the math, watching their wealth literally burn in the killing ground below. The siege has cost 800 dead, that's 40% of Harold's total force, 12,000 silver marks in supplies, and immeasurable damage to royal prestige. When your king's army can't take a single fortress defended by fewer than 100 people, what does that say about the king's power? When Harold finally retreats, Eirik doesn't celebrate. He knows this isn't victory, it's advertising. Others will come, drawn by the challenge of conquering the unconquerable fortress. And he's right. Over the following 15 years, Drakehold repels 3 more legendary sieges, each one adding to the fortress's terrifying reputation. Swedish King Erik the Victorious loses 900 men learning that dragons can breathe sideways, not just forward. Jom's Viking raiders discover that Eirik has added mobile dragon heads on wheeled platforms, turning his fortress into something like a medieval tank. Danish Prince Sweyn Forkbeard watches his entire fleet burn when Eirik reveals his ultimate innovation: underwater pipes that turn the fjord itself into a lake of fire. Each victory makes Drakehold more famous and more isolated. Eirik has created something that transcends conventional military power, but at a cost that's becoming increasingly clear. Because when you build a fortress that cannot be taken by force, you discover that time itself becomes your most dangerous enemy. By 938, Eirik faces an enemy that no dragon can burn: time itself. At 58 years old, his hands shake from decades of alchemical poisoning, his lungs wheeze from breathing toxic fumes, his eyes struggle in daylight from staring into too much fire. The man who built the unconquerable fortress is being conquered by his own creation. Drakehold has evolved from fortress to legend, attracting pilgrims who want to witness the dragon's breath, spies who hope to steal its secrets, and madmen who believe they can harness its power for their own purposes. The constant vigilance required to maintain security against these intrusions exhausts everyone. You can't relax when your home has become the most famous military installation in the known world. The technical challenges are mounting as well. Vino died 3 winters ago, taking crucial maintenance knowledge with him. Nikephoros followed last spring, whispering warnings about what happens when bronze pipes age and seals decay. The dragon's breath system requires constant attention from specialists who understand its intricate workings, and those specialists are dying faster than they can be replaced. Most dangerously, Eirik's 3 surviving sons circle like hungry wolves, each representing a different vision for Drakehold's future. Eldest Ragnar styles himself a traditional Viking, viewing the dragon's breath as dishonorable trickery that should be abandoned in favor of honest sword work. Youngest Magnus dreams of selling the complete formula to the highest bidder. Byzantine gold could make them richer than kings. Middle son Ivar has inherited his father's strategic mind and wants to establish franchise fortresses across Scandinavia, creating an empire of fire. Each son commands loyal followers. Each believes himself the true heir. Each watches the others for signs of betrayal. The fortress that was built to protect the family is tearing the family apart. The crisis erupts during the autumn storms, when Magnus secretly negotiates with Danish King Harald Bluetooth, offering complete plans for 30,000 silver marks. This isn't just betrayal, it's proliferation of weapons technology that could destabilize the entire balance of power in Northern Europe. A Finnish servant girl, loyal to old Vino's memory, warns Eirik just hours before Danish merchants arrive to collect their prize. The confrontation between father and son shatters Drakehold's unity in ways that no siege ever could. Magnus claims he acts for everyone's benefit. The dragon's breath has become a curse, making them prisoners in their own fortress. And there's truth in this argument. They can't leave without risking espionage, can't trust visitors, can't even sleep soundly knowing that enemies constantly probe for weaknesses. Ragnar supports his brother from different motives, seeing an opportunity to return to what he considers honorable warfare. Even loyal Ivar wavers, exhausted by the constant paranoia that comes with possessing ultimate defensive power. When your fortress is impregnable, you discover that the real prison is inside your own walls. Standing in his workshop among bubbling alchemical vessels, surrounded by the tools and knowledge that have defined his adult life, Eirik makes the only decision a true strategist can make. If the dragon's breath must die, it will die on his terms, not sold to foreign kings, not inherited by sons who lack the wisdom to control it, not stolen by spies or duplicated by rivals. He begins mixing a final batch of fuel, but this is different from everything that came before, adding compounds that Nikephoros warned never to combine, creating something that burns too hot, too fast, too hungrily. This is the alchemical equivalent of overloading a nuclear reactor, intentionally creating an uncontrollable reaction. As Danish ships gather in the fjord below, and his sons marshal their factions for civil war, Eirik floods the entire pipe system with this ultimate flame. The dragon's breath will have one last meal, and it will consume everything. When Harald Bluetooth's forces attack at dawn, confident in Magnus's betrayal, they trigger Drakehold's final surprise. The dragonheads breathe as they always have, but the intense heat melts bronze pipes from within. Pressurized fuel explodes through fortress walls. Stone cracks, timber ignites. The mountain stream itself seems to catch fire as burning oil races upstream against the current. Eirik stands atop the highest tower, arms spread like wings, laughing as his life's work consumes itself. This is the laughter of a man who has solved an impossible equation: how to destroy something that cannot be destroyed. The explosion, when the main reservoir detonates, throws bodies hundreds of feet, visible from villages 20 miles away. By noon, only smoking rubble remains of the fortress that couldn't be taken. The scattered survivors spread across the Viking world like seeds from a burned forest, carrying fragments of knowledge but never the complete secret. Some become master smiths, incorporating bronze-working techniques into weapons and tools. Others join Byzantine forces, their expertise in siege defense changing Mediterranean warfare for generations. The knowledge doesn't die, it transforms, evolves, finds new applications in safer contexts. The site of Drakehold remains cursed ground for generations. Locals swear they hear dragon roars in winter storms and see ghostly flames dancing on foggy nights. The psychological impact of what happened here transcends the physical destruction, creating folklore that will influence Scandinavian culture for centuries. Skalds transform Eirik into a god of fire, while Christian monks record him as a devil who bargained for unholy knowledge. Both interpretations miss the deeper truth. He was simply a man who understood that in warfare, as in life, the only permanent advantage is the one you destroy before others can steal it. And perhaps that's the real lesson of Drakehold. In a world where power constantly shifts between kingdoms, where today's ally becomes tomorrow's enemy, where secrets inevitably leak and technologies spread, the ultimate strategic wisdom might be knowing when to let go. Eirik built something that couldn't be conquered by force, but he had the wisdom to recognize when it needed to be conquered by choice. The dragon's breath died with its creator, ensuring that some knowledge remains too dangerous to survive. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly how it should be. Asterisk. Thank you for following the complete saga of Drakehold and Eirik Thorson, the man who built the unconquerable fortress and had the courage to destroy it. Asterisk.